Butcher got loose. Butcher got in the wall.
What was that? What was that? Hey, I raised you clean.
I know, I f***ed up. I'm sorry.
No.
Hey, Chris. I'm really we've raced each other clean.
I know. What was that about?
As soon as I knew it wasn't going to work, I tried to back out and I got you. It's like, the last thing I want to do is wreck your car. I could care less about mine. I'm sorry. I f***ed up.
Dude,
I f***ed up.
that doesn't work for me. We don't have that sticker on our door right now. Huh? Need to be better. I don't have that sticker on my door. This means more. I need you to be better. We've raced each other just fine for so long.
I know. Sorry, dude.
Give him room.
Welcome to the Big Motor Small Blade Podcast. My name is Buddy Pulley, host of the Big Motor Small Blade Podcast. Joined, of course, by Chuck, lead car store reporter for FrontStretch.com, and my co-host on Tour, which was yet again the #1 rated show on this YouTube channel. Our buddy Seth is taking a sabbatical from the show this week, and he will be back for Wilkesboro and all the content that we're going to have through the month of May. And go watch Push to Pass. He put that up earlier today, well, yesterday if you're listening to this, on the YouTube channel. Chuck, Darlington, the Goodyear 400. Give me some initial thoughts.
So, the finish was great.
Yeah.
But overall, from what I've seen, and from what I saw in Gluck's poll when I voted, and I did vote yes.
Okay.
But everybody's like all the rave about this race, and I don't really think it was all that special. I didn't think it was that great. I voted yes because of the finish, but I almost regretted it. I didn't really think this race was that good, I guess. I don't know. I kind of want to let you give your thoughts before I dive into why I feel that way, but I kind of feel like it was a really, really, really mid-race that just had an exciting finish, and everybody's only going to remember the finish.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I thought this was, if it would have run out the way it was without the battle there at the end, I think it would have just been a ho-hum race. I don't think it, but obviously the finish helped it a lot. I think it has a lot to do with the obviously the car and the tire package we're running, or not necessarily a tire package, but kind of. I think Darlington is a perfect example of a race that we could eliminate stage cautions and it would help the race tremendously, because we saw it took 30-40 laps for the tires to really fall off a cliff, and that's when you could start passing guys, and that was also when the leaders would start catching lap traffic, and it would kind of accordion the field back together, and that was when you saw 90% of your passing. But you would only have that for 8 or 10 laps before it was time to pit, just because of the way the stage lengths were, right? So, it being a 400-mile race, the stages are shorter than, say the Southern 500, where you're going to have to go to that 50-60 mark during a stage to split it in half, or make the strategy work, and that's gonna produce just more total laps of this great Darlington racing that we always see. But the shorter stages in the 400-mile race didn't necessarily allow for that. So I don't know, go take that and run with it, Chuck, and I'll
So that's kind of how I felt. Obviously, for those that don't know, they brought a new right side tire this weekend. I didn't really see that it made any bit of a difference.
I didn't either.
Like,
I didn't either. I saw a whole lot of difference on the back end of the run. I felt like the racing on the back end of the run was much better than it had been in previous Next Gen Darlington races.
And okay, I'm gonna need somebody smarter than me, which is
that ain't gonna be tough.
Seriously, somebody a whole lot smarter than me to explain it to me, because I'm not gonna use the Southern 500 because I didn't watch the Southern 500 last year. Shame on me. But I was at this race last year.
Yeah.
And from lap 0 to lap 30 in the run, I felt like I watched the exact same race.
Yes.
And then from lap 30 on in the run, I felt like I watched the same race with this year's turned up to a larger degree. Like, I felt like last year, the way the switch flipped at lap 30 was evident. Like, if you were paying attention, you could tell, because there was a couple guys that could actually get closer after the lap 30 mark, but the tires just didn't fall off enough. It was almost like they got to lap 30 and the tires actually fell off enough for them to do something with it this year.
Yes, that's exactly.
But what I need someone to explain to me is, how does the new tire work for what it's supposed to do for 30 laps on, but it's like a whole different set of rules that we play with from lap 0 to 30. I don't understand how that works. Like, because that's what bothered me. Sorry to cut you off. I'm just going to finish.
I think sorry.
That's what bothered me, is that, like, from laps, I will say from lap 5 to lap 35 in a run.
Yeah.
Yesterday, you were basically dead in the water. Yeah, because like the first 5 laps, guys could run the bottom, and there was a little bit of passing, and after that,
I think I have an answer for you.
Go ahead.
Denny Hamlin said it on Actions Detrimental, and for all the people who don't like Denny Hamlin, and I know there's a lot of you out there, because every time Denny wins, our ratings go down. But Denny pointed out that because the track, it was hot and slick yesterday. Well, it was hot. They're running slower than they would be if it was cooler. And because of that, it works the opposite of what you would normally think. And because they're running slower because of the higher track temperature, they're not wearing the tires out as quick. And that's why it takes longer to wear them out. Because if you look at this race in 2022, I felt like, no, that was a little bit skewed because it was the first Next Gen race at Darlington and everything was, batshit insane. But I felt like it was a better race, that race, than, last year's race. And the only difference really was the track temperature, because it was, in the low 60s in 2022 and it was in the 80s, last year and this year. And so I would imagine that's kind of how it's gonna have to, be. I think we've seen with this car, hot, temperatures at a racetrack don't work as well.
We talk about these tires all the time, and I genuinely think a lot of their struggles with the tires, and I'm not excusing it because they've been making tires for longer than my great grandparents have been alive.
Yeah.
But I think their struggle with these tires, they've just never figured out the smaller sidewall tires. Like, I feel like if we had the same size rims that we used to, same size wheels that we used to in the Gen 6 era with just a wider tire, I feel like this wouldn't be an issue. And they're, for whatever reason, the colossal company that they are, it's just like the fossil fuel is fossil fuel. Fossil is stuck in time and cannot evolve.
I don't know. I don't really have much of a comment on it because I don't know. I have a hard time believing they can't figure it out. I also have a hard time believing they can't put an interliner in there. That's that's an engineering question, and I don't know anybody that is a Goodyear engineer.
Like I said earlier, someone smarter than me.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I thought overall, like I said, I think it would have been a ho-hum race, and then we got to the end of it, and we got to that sweet spot of the run, and we saw a quintessential Darlington race. I mean, we saw the best pieces of it all in that last run of the race. Tyler Reddick and Brad Keselowski. Tyler Reddick dominated this thing. I mean, was running away with it. Kyle Larson won stage 1, but Reddick was light years better than everybody else for the majority of this race, and Brad Keselowski gave him a run for his money there. Before we talk about the finish, though, William Byron is a menace. Like, he sends it in there 3 wide underneath Ryan Blaney. Or underneath Ryan Blaney, Martin Truex. It just comes up. Just gives him no room. He's right there. He was in the 3rd lane on the bottom and just opens the wheel up and says, "Good luck, everybody else."
I think he honestly would have put Truex in the wall had Blaney not been there. Like, he just didn't care.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? We all defended him after the 2022 race, and here he goes. He did the same damn thing.
Yeah. This was worse. This was like, he just, okay, see you boys, have fun.
Yeah. It was kind of unnecessary. And Ryan Blaney, not a man of his word. He did not go kill those motherfuckers. So that's probably a good thing. But it probably would have saved Kyle Larson some heartache, because he damn near did the same thing to Kyle. He sent it off in there, and he gets under Kyle, and he never touches Kyle. But Kyle tries to give him room, because I think Kyle probably knew, hey, the 24 just put the 19 and 12 in the wall, and he was on track to do that again. And Kyle got up in the shit, and that's what got Kyle in the wall and ended up ultimately was the catalyst to ending Kyle Larson's day.
Yeah. Yeah, because like you said, he never touched him, but he arrow pushed the hell out of him.
Oh yeah.
And it didn't help that Eric Jones was peaking 3 wide with fresh tires, but William gave Eric plenty of room on the bottom. He's like, "Oh yeah, go right ahead. Here's the freeway. You can have it. I'm gonna finish putting the 5 in the wall if I can."
Yeah.
But I mean, and yeah, when Larson hit the wall, he immediately pitted, and ultimately he had the flat a couple laps later. But he had a flat because the car was broke.
Yeah.
And if anybody disagrees with that, you can go back and listen to Cliff Daniels' audio. He literally says, "It's broke, but whatever you're doing is working for lap time." So keep doing it.
You could see it when he hits the wall after Byron kind of pushed him up there. You can see the car and the way it was driving when he was bringing it in. He didn't have a flat then. It was you could tell it was broke. He obviously broke a toe link. And yeah, somehow, some way he was still running, respectable lap times. He's the greatest fucking race car driver in the world. That's how. And then ultimately the tragedy of the tragedy of it all. I don't know. The ghost of Dale Sr., I guess, rattled his cage, or that's the running joke on Twitter right now. Kyle ends up blowing a left rear and ended up into the fence and crashing what was voted as the best throwback of the year. So
rightfully so, by the way.
Yes. Oh my God, that car was it was so good.
That was awesome.
It was a great looking car. Damn it, William Byron, you son of a bitch. I ever tell you I don't like William Byron? I can't stand that little kid.
I think you have told me that.
Okay,
actually.
all right.
And I think, hey, did Ryan Blaney tell you that? Because I think after Sunday, William broke up with Ryan's sister. I think Ryan's allowed to say that now.
Wait, what?
Oh, you didn't know that? That was the joke, is that Ryan went out there because William.
Oh, I didn't know they broke up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow. So Aaron's single?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that was the whole joke though. Is that like Ryan went out there to take a swing because he broke up with his sister?
Damn. What?
I don't know how long ago it was, but yeah.
What? Hang on. This is like the Taylor Swift, whoever Taylor Swift's dating news. Well, obviously I know who Taylor Swift's dating, but like the Travis Kelce, Chiefs, dumbass. But I mean, it's like dating, like whoever Taylor Swift is dating. That's what this kind of news is.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Sorry, I'm a little slow.
Yeah. So is Ryan Blaney. On the racetrack, not in general.
He was actually having a good run for the first time in a month and a half.
Yeah, and at Darlington, well, we saw the Fords, man. They were all running a lot better. They figured something out in the motor, and they don't want to say it, but they did. And we saw they finished 5 out of the top 10. So, but
About time. But anyway, go back to what you were saying.
Yeah, no, that's just that's interesting. I had no clue that happened. I guess I don't know. Why would William Byron break up with Aaron?
Well, see, this is where my reporter work is.
We got to come up. Look, we really got it. Yeah, one, yeah, you should know this. 2, we got to come up. We got to have a tinfoil hat conspiracy about this.
Oh gosh, right now?
I mean, I'm willing to bet it's because Ryan beat William in the championship, and so he never quite got over it. He got here. Maybe yeah. I can't. Never mind. Maybe it's not a good conversation because I got a real funny joke and I can't say it on the podcast.
No, we're not gonna say that. What I will say is I think it was Bob asked Ryan like if he was gonna wreck the 24, and he was like, because like he went, he goes back out there, takes a swing at him.
Yeah.
And at this point, Ryan was in a better mood. He was kind of laughing, but he was like, "No, I'll save that for another time. We'll see if that's an empty threat or not, or if he actually wrecks the 24. I doubt it because everybody's full of empty threats, but it is Ryan Blaney, so
it'll be one of those things where he races them hard and doesn't give them the corner, and doesn't give them any room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he did say that, I don't know, if you go back and watch it, he was like, well, I almost accidentally did it because when he went up on the apron, sideways, and he almost accidentally wrecked him.
Yeah. Man, I'm trying to think how I'd react to that if I was out there and the guy who dumped my sister is out there. I'd race him a little bit harder.
I was surprised NASCAR, like I was honestly, not that I cared that they didn't, but I was genuinely surprised NASCAR didn't like penalize him, like at least monetary wise for that, because he was like out of the race. Like the DVP clock was up, so he was like out and drove back on track to do that. So I was surprised.
Well, I mean, he had to drive it back around the garage. Well, no, he didn't, I guess. That is interesting, yeah.
I was surprised they didn't take bigger issue with that. Really.
Well, he didn't hit him. I think if he would have hit him, they would have had a lot bigger problem.
Of course,
yeah.
But like even still.
Yeah.
I guess William Byron did like wreck Denny Hamlin under caution one time.
And I mean, as long as they could have gotten a Ford exec on the appeals board, he would have been fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was really the about the only thing that happened in the first 3 quarters of this race. Was
John Hunter Nemechek did a burnout in 3 and 4.
It's probably going to be the only burnout John Hunter does. Yeah, no, I mean Ryan Blaney losing his cool, which isn't a shock to anyone, and William Byron running someone in the wall off turn 2 at Darlington. It's a story we've seen before. But getting into the meat and potatoes of the race, the restart happens after the Kyle Larson crash, and Brad Keselowski and Tyler Reddick had, I mean, a hell of a duel for this win. I mean, that was as clean as you could make it, and as hard as you could drive it at Darlington. And I want to know your reaction from the stands watching that happen.
So I was actually coming back from the bathroom,
Jesus Christ, Chuck.
No. So they restart, and I walked back up, and I was actually about to go find Seth because we were all sitting like the three of us were sitting like in a span of 5 sections in 3 and 4. So I am standing right at the fence, and I watch them go by all 4, and I'm like, man, they're still side by side for the lead. Let me stand here for a second. And I can't see Buescher pushing the 6. I just see him come back into 3, and I'm standing at an angle to where I can see the left side of the car as they come off 4. Like, just like slightly, but I'm offset like this, you know?
Yeah.
And I see Brad driving to 3, and I'm like, uh-oh, this is not going to end well. And he starts coming up, and I see him. He's drifting up, and he's like back end start, not like coming around, but you can see he's
he's
unstable.
wiggling. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh boy, this is not going to be good. And they like flash out of my view because they're right in front of me. And I look over, bam, right in the wall. And I was like, oh, I saw that coming. And then I thought the 17 was going to eat the inside wall because of how hard he hooked a left. I was like, oh gosh, because I thought Buescher had just like tried to avoid them and just pounded the inside wall. And I'm like, oh, never mind. Okay, oh my God, he's going to clear him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Chris Buescher is leading this race. And then I went up with Seth, and I said to Seth, because Reddick had the best car all day.
Oh, hang on. We'll get to there's 2 parts to this.
Okay.
So
yeah, you go ahead.
The restart happens, and I'm watching this, and this was some of the like. There's moments at races where, you know, everybody stands up for the restart, and they're normally after a lap or so, you know, leader gets clear, everybody sits back down. We got that restart, and there wasn't a soul sitting. A seat was not being used at all. And
shout out to the crowd, by the way. That place was packed.
It was packed, exactly. And let me tell you, everybody in my section was, except for one person a couple rows down, everybody in my section was pulling for Brad Keselowski. Which, if you would have told me 6 or 7 years ago, I wouldn't have believed it for a minute. But I mean, it was awesome because it reminded me of vintage NASCAR where people, you know, gave a damn, and it was just good hard racing, and it was the last lap of Kansas, as far as like, you know, how Buescher and Larson were up against the wall, and he was giving them a car length, he was giving them a car width and an inch. That's all Brad was giving Tyler there. And that was just, it was one of those moments and one of those battles that you'll remember for a while, just because it was just Darlington at its best, and 2 really, really good drivers here. But obviously, that move by Chris Buescher, I mean, give credit to Chris. You know, he's kind of stolen a few from Brad here in the last couple of years, and he did everything in his power to push Brad to the win. He gave him a shot there on the front stretch, gave him a shot from hell going into turn 1 there. And, you know, finally it came to blows. I mean, you could tell Brad, I mean, the clock was running out on Brad. He knew that, you know, he could only hang on to Reddick for so long. I mean, the side drafts were getting more aggressive, and he was having to use up a little bit more. And it was just a matter of time before they came together. And obviously they finally did. And there was a lot of people cheering for Chris too, because I think a lot of people, you know, obviously 0.001 short last week, but obviously that wasn't meant to be. And then we get to the finish of the race, and
well, okay, can I say something?
Sure.
So right after that, I walk up to Seth, and as soon as I get up, it's like probably like 2 laps after. And the 45 had been the best car all day.
Yeah.
Because he was lights out faster than the field in the first 20 laps of the run. But he was not the best car in the long run. because every time in the long run he would back up to him.
They were all going to accordion back together.
Yeah,
and they
Brad
were
was significantly better than Reddick on the long run. And I think part of Chris pushing Brad is the situational awareness for Chris, knowing he did not have the car that Brad did.
Yeah,
and nowhere close.
Yeah,
Chris had a top 10 car. Brad had a top 2 or 3 car.
The only thing holding Chris up there was clean air, and once that kind of switch flipped with the tires, Chris started. You started to see the weaknesses in Chris's car, and that's when Tyler started coming back to him. But Brad was hot on their heels as well.
Yeah, and that's what I said to Seth. As soon as I got up there and I'm looking at these 3, I leaned into Seth and I said, Brad will catch him. Yeah. Because I thought Reddick would catch the 17, and in the process, Brad was better than both of them on the long run.
Yeah.
He would catch him. And he did, and I will hand this back to you.
Yeah. Obviously Tyler catches Chris. And, there's how many laps to go? Were there 11, 12, something around there?
8. Well, when the move happened, there was 8.
Okay, 8 to go. You have time. You've run them down. Like, you have a faster car.
Yeah.
Tyler Reddick, I see a lot of discourse online of him getting out of the car and being apologetic to Chris and owning up to it. And there's a lot of people gung-ho about that, saying, look at him. He owns up to it. I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that to a degree. But how many times is Tyler Reddick going to do something stupid and get out of his car and be like, oh man, I fucked up? It's the same thing with Chase Briscoe. We said the same thing about Chase for several years. He'll do something incredibly stupid and get out of the car and be like, oh man, I screwed up. The first time it's like, all right, well, at least he admitted it. The second time it's like, you've done this before. The third time it's like, all right, dumbass, stop. Apologizing doesn't do anything for me. You got to show me that you can learn from something. And that's where I'm at with Tyler Reddick. I literally watched Tyler Reddick in the same corner at the same racetrack do one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever seen in my life last year in the Southern 500. When he slammed on brakes at the top of the racetrack, almost got ass packed by Ryan Newman just so he could beat Kevin Harvick on the pit road after he's past the fucking pit road line. And it's not uncommon for Tyler Reddick. And he runs up front too much to be doing this. You need to have some sort of, I get it. Brad's coming. Brad's going to have, Brad's catching you and Brad's quicker. But you have time, man. You have Chris right where you want him. Chris, it was drastic how much worse Chris was than Tyler. And the first opportunity you get, you pull a slide job that Denny called it a low percentage move. That was a no percentage move. There's no chance, unless Chris Buescher slams on brakes and lets you go in the fence, there's no way that move works. And even then, you're going in the fence. It was just a stupid move. It was incredibly stupid. I tweeted yesterday, Tyler Reddick's the dumbest motherfucker alive. Obviously, that's exaggeration because, you're on this podcast. But, he's up there. It was just a stupid fucking move. It was just stupid as hell. And people are saying, oh, if you watch it back, you see Chris get in the wall first before Tyler actually hits him. All Chris was doing was trying to make sure Tyler didn't actually clear him, which he was never going to do. Even if Chris doesn't jump back in the throttle and scrape the fence. No shot Tyler's clearing him. I don't know. You got Tim Richmond's mustache, but you don't have his car control. All right. Maybe not car control. You don't have his racecraft. I'll put it like that.
Yeah, so
you're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy.
Buescher hitting the wall. I don't know why people keep pointing that out, because that has nothing to do with the fact that the 45 absolutely bodies him 2 seconds later.
Yeah.
If anything, he would have been 2 inches lower to get bodied even worse.
Yeah, exactly. It's moves like that piss. and we're going to see the opposite of this, but here in a second, it's moves like that. They're like, we're really in the Cup Series making these moves. That's something I would expect from in a car store race. One of these kids in a fucking rental late model just going in there and, at Orange County Speedway and just using a guy up.
Like we saw, and never mind.
Yeah.
That happened to Landon Huffman. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about the dude in the pro late model race, the Yankee. You don't need to say his name. But I mean, it was just, it's frustrating because Tyler's a good dude. Like, let's be real. Tyler's a good dude. But, fast race cars only make up for so much stupid. I'll put it like that.
Yeah, because... Okay, so I'll say this because I don't really have much to add to it because you hit the nail on the head. Like, he did something stupid, really stupid. And if he doesn't do that, it would have been nice to see it play out because I actually think the top 4 would have accordioned together.
Yeah, even the top 5 because Barry was with Gibbs there for a while.
Yeah, well, the 50. I say top 4 because the 54 was the best car all down long runs. He just never had a chance to show it.
Yeah.
Well, other than the first stage and whatever they put in the 5 in the first stage that they didn't have the rest of the race, I don't know. But
he ate his cornflakes, man.
He had some extra cornflakes in stage 1. He ran out. And they didn't want to punch.
Someone pissed on him. Someone pissed on him down in turn 3. I think it was William Byron.
But like, so it would have been nice.
I bet his piss was the color of his front end of the car. That should have. Anyway,
poor Seth. He had a time. Every time he saw that car, be like, "F you guys for messing up that car."
Yeah.
But no,
fucking head ass Jeff Gordon fans.
I saw some people. I don't think this was the popular census or whatever, but I think this. I saw some people saying, "Oh,
a lot of Darfs out there."
Chris shouldn't be that mad because if the roles were reversed, he would have done the same thing. No, he wouldn't have.
The roles literally were reversed last week.
Put the 5 on the fence last week, so I don't want to hear that ever again by some clown that didn't watch the end of the Kansas race. Don't you ever tell me Chris Buescher would have done the same thing.
He wouldn't
have. He had every opportunity to prove it. He did.
And on the last lap.
Yeah.
No less.
Like,
not 8 to go.
Where it's in a way acceptable, almost, I guess. I mean, to an extent, not 8 laps to go. Dude, Tyler Reddick is a hell of a race car driver. There's no doubt about it. He reminds me of... I feel like this is going to be a good comp. He reminds me of like the early days Ganassi, Kyle Larson. Like when they got competitive, where he's got fast race cars, but he just drives over his head and does something stupid so often, except in Tyler's case, what he does isn't just hurting him.
Exactly.
It's hurting someone else.
Exactly.
That's where I take, and that's like the biggest issue with it.
You know who I'm going to compare it to? Ernie Irvan.
That's
not as... No, I think it is a fair comparison. I think it is fair. I don't have to dumb it down or tone it back at all. I think it is a fair comparison. The thing is, in this day and age in the Cup Series, we're not going to have Rusty Wallace and Dale Earnhardt stand up and do something about
Call him out.
Yeah, exactly. We obviously we don't remember. I wasn't born yet. You weren't born yet. But Ernie got up in front of the drivers' meeting and said, "Look, I hear all of you. I'll improve." And it was the same kind of deal that was with Ross Chastain. I think Ross was a little bit worse, but it's something that I think Tyler gives a damn more than Ernie did, but it doesn't make up for the low percentage moves that Tyler makes, on occasion. And I think Chris, and I wanted to make this point because Chris is quickly becoming one of my favorite people in the garage. And the reason being is he races with respect. He's unassuming, but he doesn't take any shit. And he holds people accountable. You heard him after the race when he got in Reddick's face. His main thing was do better. Like, be better than that. And we need people like that in the series, because Chris Buescher, he knows what it's like to run in the back. He knows what it's right to run mid-pack and push his equipment faster than it needs to go. But, do it in a way where he's gonna finish the damn race. We saw him in JTG. He had the longest top 20 streak of like anybody in the Cup Series there for a while. And Chris has a respect for other people on the racetrack. And not that Tyler doesn't, but Chris has the wherewithal to understand situations and understand, it's just he holds himself to a high standard and holds the rest of the field to a high standard. And I'm sure, and like I said, I'm sure Tyler says he does, but he's not proving it right now. You heard him after the race, Chris, point out that you got that sticker on the door and I don't. And this is a debate that I want to hear your take on this for sure. Like we hear in the playoffs, should playoff guys get raced differently? And I think people are on the fence about Chris's comments here, where he said that, told Tyler, you have that sticker on the door, I don't. And he felt like, that was, that was a real sticking point with him.
So, I don't think anybody should ever be raced differently. I'm a firm believer that what Ross Chastain did last year was the right thing.
Yeah, and let me point it out. I don't think Chris should be raced. I don't think they should be raced different either. But I think there is a level to. You should have some sort of, like we just said, you shouldn't, just because you can go out there and it doesn't matter if you finish 25th or second, or, it's essentially it's winner bust for Tyler in some of these situations. But don't make that someone else's problem. Don't make your advantage someone else's problem.
My take on it, and I don't think Chris thinks he should be raced differently.
No,
I don't think that's what Chris is saying.
That's not what
What I take from it, and I don't necessarily think that I had a really good way to explain this a second ago. It's just like what Chris is basically saying here is you did something stupid, okay? And in the grand scheme of things, that doesn't hurt you tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it does me, because now I'm 35 points farther or closer to the cut line than I was an hour ago.
Yeah.
Because you did something dumb. And he's not saying race me differently because we're in a different situation than you are. What he's saying is race smarter so that it doesn't matter who that is on your outside. You're not going to put them in that position because it shouldn't matter whether they're Denny Hamlin with 3 wins or Ty Gibbs going for his first win.
Yeah.
The point Chris is making is you need to be better to a point where it doesn't matter who's on your outside and what situation they're in, because they're not going to get used up, because that's not who you are and that's not how you race.
Yeah.
That is the point Chris is making, and he's using the sticker, the win
sticker on the door,
the sticking point to prove his point as to like, look, here's a prime example of your actions affect other people differently. Exactly. Tomorrow you're going to wake up and you're still in the playoffs. Tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm like, shit, how do we make up 35 points that we just lost because the 45 fenced us?
Yep.
That is where Chris Buescher is coming from. Anybody that has a problem with that is in the
problem with you're a dart.
Because
you are a dart if you have a problem with that.
Because he is a 1,000% right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that argument that way of thinking can be directly placed in the hands of someone who is not in the playoffs versus someone who is in the playoffs. As far as when we actually get to that point, to the final 10 races, in that, hey man, don't race me any differently, but don't let your situation and your give a shit meter being down here, don't let that, affect me.
Right.
It all comes back to, this is the Cup Series. You are here for a reason. Act like it. And, let's in a way, let's take care of each other. Let's not, if you don't do something stupid, don't get me involved in it.
Right.
You put it perfectly though.
And I'll just say, like, neither one of us are out here like just calling for Tyler Reddick's job, because Tyler Reddick is one hell of a race car driver. You may not know this. No average Joe is going to go to East Bay and win a Lucas Oil late model race at 15 years old. Like, Tyler Reddick is a very, very special, talented race car driver. Yeah. He hasn't found a way to harness that yet.
No.
And now he's gotten to the point where there's a lack of accountability, I guess. Because
I don't think there's a lack of accountability. I think there's a lack of...
Accountability is the wrong word. It's the lack of...
There's a lack of patience.
Correction of the issue.
There's a lack of patience, and there's a lack of identifying the moment.
A lack of progression.
That too, yes.
Yeah. That's what I was looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. It is bigger than turns 3 and 4 at Darlington. It is the big picture of everything, Obviously, Chris,
I'm really dumb, and I thought you were like literally talking about like how big turns 3 and 4 at Darlington is, and I was like, but it's smaller than turns 1 and 2, and then I realized you were talking about the situation with Tyler.
Journalist Chuck Folsom for FrontStretch.com. Anyway, shout out to Chris, man. That was a couple shout outs to people.
Well, hey, now don't give away our sundresses.
These aren't my sundresses. Shout out to Chris for the way he handled that situation. He went up there, he grabbed Tyler, shook him like a rag doll. I bet Tyler about shit his pants. Chris Buescher, man, he's big dude. He's country strong. Tyler Reddick,
he got that Texas blood in him.
Yeah, Tyler Reddick. I mean, hell, I tower over Tyler Reddick, and I am not the tallest dude in the world.
Tyler Reddick is Abby sized.
Yeah, I mean
Abby's 5'2" for reference.
Yeah. Tyler Reddick's Abby size and Chris Buescher's Abby forehead size. Anyway.
I'm not letting her watch it.
She's going to kick my ass for that. Maybe you shouldn't bring her on Friday. I'm going to get my ass whooped.
Guys, if Buddy doesn't return from Wilkesboro,
yeah,
my girlfriend may have rid the earth of him. I don't know.
Yeah. By the way, Josh Berry finished 3rd. Shout out to him. Who? But anyway.
That's a story for another time, guys.
Yeah.
If you want to know, come find us at the track.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, I'm proud of the way Chris handled the situation. Went up there, shook him like a rag doll. I thought that was hilarious. But also, he got the point across, but he didn't overblow the situation. I'll put it like that. He didn't go in there. Exactly. He didn't go in there, swing on Tyler Reddick, and Tyler's sitting there like trying to apologize to him, and Chris is, cold cocks him. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the fact that Chris heard him out too. Once he let Tyler talk, he was like, he calmed down a little bit. But what you doing over there, Chuck?
Keep going. I got to plug in my laptop.
All right. So, anyway, So after the incident here, this was what eventually gave Brad Keselowski the victory. Tyler Reddick and Chris Buescher both had tires go down in the shades of the Southern 500 in 2020. Two leaders take each other out, and a guy I wanted to beat both of them ended up beating both of them. So shout out to that. But Brad Keselowski breaks a 3-year-long winless streak and wins at Darlington. I don't know how you felt about it, Chuck. I was extremely happy. Brad Keselowski is quite the individual. He's had quite the track record. He's been in some situations in his career. We'll say that. And he's lost a lot of respect from a lot of drivers and a lot of the fan base, and he's worked hard to gain that back. And it took a man to leave Penske and go to RFK when they had been, basically people had counted them, they had, looked at the watch and declared, deceased. And Brad went there, and he's brought it back to their old glory, which is a good way to describe it, being Brad Keselowski. It's got to be hard for Brad because he's watched Penske win the last 2 championships. We've heard other people say, yeah, it was probably hard watching Austin Cindric winning the Daytona 500 and Brad hadn't. And Brad, there's got to be a lot of, this has got to be sweeter than any win or championship he could have given Penske, because he did this. Brad Keselowski built this team to what it is. Brad Keselowski put Chris Buescher up there in position to win. Brad Keselowski brought that whole organization to the playoffs and back where they need to be. And that is, I think, all of that taken into account, that's why you saw the grandstands at Darlington stand and the crowd roared when he took the lead and won that race. Because, God damn it, we respect what he's doing, and he's giving back to the sport that's given him so much.
So, obviously, most of the time, I'm not allowed to share my personal likings and dislikings, but this is a situation where I am actually, in a way, it is appropriate for me to share some of this. So, for those that don't know, I have, growing up, I had a lot of a special liking and disliking for Brad as a kid before I, grew up. Because I was a Carl Edwards fan, that needs no explanation. And then my uncle ended up working for him, and that was kind of what put Mike's career back on the map.
Mike Helmer Jr.
Yes. So a lot of my emotions towards Brad, sort of, the tide kind of turned there.
Yeah.
And then when he shut the doors in 2017, everybody, he said, when they shut the doors of the truck team, he said, one day I will own a cup team. That is the plan. And a lot of people kind of laughed at it. Like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like,
especially at that point too, it was the charters weren't in a place where you thought they should, where the position wasn't there, essentially.
Yeah. And so, and I kind of wasn't one of those people that, I don't remember how old I was, but I was like, I could see Brad doing that one day. And because we were right in that time, Tony had just retired.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, so you could see it. There's the model right there.
Yeah.
And you were right. Brad, that was kind of like a leap of faith, because Roush was on their deathbed. They had nothing. They had Chris Buescher. He had just gone over there.
Yeah.
And we all see now what Chris Buescher is, but we didn't see it then. Like, we knew he was a nationwide champion, but we were like, what is that?
You could see because he was outperforming his equipment.
Oh, absolutely.
And everybody in the garage knew Chris Buescher was special. But it takes a good man with a lot of faith to, and I mean faith in the organization, not faith in a religious state, to stick with Roush. Because even at JTG, Chris was still a Roush driver. He was on loan from them, much like the Pickers are. And he stayed loyal to Roush, and he's getting the fruits of that labor. But sorry, go ahead.
So, and I mean, like, and Brad goes over there to this team that's basically dead.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I think a lot of I'm going to kind of jump back and forth here, but I think a lot of the people appreciate what Brad did and what he's doing so much because, like, my generation, I grew up as, like, Roush was the 1B to Hendrick when I was a kid.
Exactly.
Like, it was Hendrick and Roush every week. 5
of the 10 Chase contenders in 2005. They won.
That's unheard of.
They won and were contending for championships every year with all of their drivers.
And they all of them easily could have won more.
Yeah.
And it's just things never fell their way, but they were always like that 1B to Hendrick's 1A. And like, so a large portion of the fan base, even if you weren't a fan of them or any of those drivers, there's this sentimental value to seeing that childhood team of yours, maybe even not yours, but one that
it's the old guard,
with,
dude. It is the old guard that...
And it goes away. So now Brad goes there, and you immediately knew, like we knew as soon as he went there and he said, all of these people are staying and Chris Buescher is my guy.
Yep.
Like everybody knew, okay, Brad is for real.
Yeah.
Like Brad is less about making this a publicity stunt for him and more about accomplishing a greater goal.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of hard work, but they showed up to the Bristol night race in 2022 and had the 2 best cars there.
Yep.
Or 2 of the 4 best cars there.
Yep.
And they won that race. And Brad should have won that race.
Yeah.
And Chris did. And that was kind of like we were there that night. We weren't together that night, but we were both there. And I don't know how you felt, but for me, I kind of sat back and I was like, man, this is different than when Ricky won. This feels like they're back.
Yeah.
Like maybe not back, but they're getting there. They're actually building on something.
Yeah.
And then last year they show up late in the summer and they have speed. And I was literally like the week before Chris won Richmond, I wrote about it for Front Stretch. We had a split column, like has RFK taken over from Penske as the best Ford team? And I said, yes, like they're legit. And then lo and behold, they go out and dominate Richmond and Chris wins.
And then Brad could have won that race.
Right. And then it's like, okay, they have something special now.
Yeah.
But I'll let you go.
Yeah. It just from day one, Brad Keselowski got out of the car at Talladega in 2009, and this has always stuck with me. This one line has always stuck with me. He got out of
that race.
Well, look, car wrecked himself.
I know.
He got out of the car that day and said, "This is NASCAR racing, and this is cool." And that's such a simple line, and it may not mean something to anybody, but that stuck out to me that day because that's a guy who is just happy to be there and appreciates what the sport is and what the sport's given to him, and he's given back to it.
Yeah.
So
this culminates into Sunday because now you have Chris Buescher's been winning races and Brad. It's like, okay, it's one of those moments like, okay, is he ever gonna win?
Yeah,
he's got to win. And you start getting that feeling like, man, is he? This isn't going to be like a Jimmy Johnson situation, is it? Like, obviously, he's got more years left.
There were some times, especially in 2022, where we thought we might have seen Brad's last win.
Yeah, And it was when he took the lead, it was one of those moments where, as a journalist, I was happy for him and happy to be there.
Yeah.
Because that moment isn't going to be replicated again for a long time. It was the same feeling I had. But it was one of those, in a weird way, if you're passionate about the sport and you're passionate about the history and you care for the guys that have paved the way for the new generation that is coming in and you want to see them, it happens with everybody. Everybody became a Jeff Gordon fan at the end of his career.
Yeah.
Everybody became a Jimmy Johnson fan at the end of his career. Everybody's been a Kevin Harvick fan the last 2 years. I remember where I was when Kevin won Michigan.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh my God, he's going to do it. He's not going to never win again.
Yeah.
That was how I felt on Sunday. When he came off 4, I was like, man, he did it. Good for him. That is awesome.
Yeah.
And to see everybody go crazy for a guy that 5 years ago, nobody really liked.
Yeah.
And he earned every single cheer in that grandstand on Sunday. And it was an awesome moment to be able.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we said it there. Brad, congrats to Brad. I mean, it's cool. And, I think this will light a fire under him. And I think, dude, I really think Brad and Chris, especially now that Ford has, they seem to be returning to form. 5 out of the top 10 in this race. I think that they are contenders. I thought last year Chris Buescher could be a Final Four contender. I think if they continue on the trajectory they're on, both of them could be.
I mean, I could see it.
Yeah. Other than that, I think that's all we got for the this race.
Yeah.
Now it's time for the our favorite part of the show, the rundown from Down Under.
The final time onto the front stretch. He comes to the checkered flag. He's won the very first 3 races in NASCAR. Thank you, guys.
The rundown from Down Under. So Shane did exactly what I thought Shane was going to do. He literally did. I said last week on the show, he's going to, as long as, he keeps his nose clean, he's going to come out of there with a top 10, top 15 run. Lo and behold, he comes out of there 15th. And it was exactly how I thought it would go. He ran, back half of the top 20 the entire race. And just kept his nose clean, grinding it out. And it was a typical Shane Van Gisbergen race. Once he got to the end of it, he was getting more aggressive. He was making passes, and he had a shot at a he ended up 15th and had a shot at an even better day towards the end of it. Chuck, you weren't at the Xfinity race?
I wasn't there. I was kind of like watching and listening on the way there.
Yeah. What's your takeaway from like a track like this? It's obviously one of the hardest tracks on the schedule, and a guy like Shane, coming in with little to no experience on ovals to a track like Darlington.
So, I kept track. Obviously, I kind of had like the race playing off to the side, but I was keeping track of him and I was keeping track of Carson, just to see how they did, and it's impressive, and I think. For Shane to not have a single lap because practice and qualifying rained out
Exactly.
is a major setback, because for these guys that run these places all the time, the 30 minutes they get for practice, it doesn't really mean much, but for a guy that has literally never seen the racetrack before, it means the world.
Yeah.
And he didn't get that. And if there's no harder track to learn on the fly than Darlington.
Yeah.
And he he showed, like, that's an immense amount of racecraft shown to learn that place on the fly. I'm just kind of, and I'm not just talking Darlington. I know I haven't been on in a couple of weeks, so I'm just gonna kind of make my point this because I didn't get to follow closely enough. I'm impressed with him overall because I've been watching and he's putting himself in a position should he, for whatever reason, not be able to close out a win in these 2 road course races, to point his way in with good runs at the road course races.
He has,
like he's minus 36, I think, right now.
Yeah,
or maybe less than that. Like he's right there. He is in a spot that, like,
his racecraft alone is going to keep his nose clean, and these guys in front of him aren't. He has not crossed the finish line. He has not crossed under that checkered flag worse than 20th. Worse than 18th all year.
Yeah.
Like, he finished, bad at Vegas because he had a mechanical problem. He was, got a BS fucking penalty at Coda. But he has not crossed under that checkered flag worse than 18th. This is a man that had never seen a stock car until last July. Never run an Xfinity car until this year. And never run an oval until, outside of a super speedway until 2 months ago.
And what's even crazier to think is, like, had he not gotten that penalty at Coda, he'd be like less than 10 points outside the cut line right now.
Yeah. And if he wouldn't have broken at Vegas, probably gets a top 20 there. That's probably 20 more points. He's probably in the playoffs. So I mean,
he's having a hell of a season. He's exceeding my expectations, that's for sure.
Well, and he also had he also ran out of gas at Talladega. Do want to point that out after a great race. The bottom line, he's just been fucking impressive. Like, even I thought he's going to get in some sort of trouble, or he's going to have a day where he just runs 25th and does nothing with it. And it's even more impressive looking at where AJ and Josh Williams are, because they are not running well. AJ is struggling to finish top 10. Josh Williams is consistently running worse than Shane, and this is a guy that's been around for a while, and he's running back. A lot of times him and Shane are racing each other. The difference is Shane goes forward, Josh Williams stays the same or goes back. It's impressive to see what he's doing compared to his teammates, because clearly Collick's not where they need to be right now.
AJ's had a lot of good runs derailed by mechanical stuff this year too.
Yeah.
So, but Shane's like, and it's not just it's the consistency that impresses me. Like, it's no matter what happens, he's right there at the end, like he should be.
Yeah.
He doesn't let anything shake the consistency.
So excited. I'm pissed off he's not running the All-Star race. I will never shut up about that.
I think we all are, because there's no reason not to.
Zero reason. I am so excited for him to run the Coca-Cola 600, because, again, if he can keep his nose clean, I think he could finish top 10. I think if at bare minimum top 15, as long as he keeps his nose clean, he'll figure it out by the 400-mile mark, and he's gonna start mowing him down. I think.
That all depends on what Collick gives him.
I mean, that's true. That's true. But I think there's some other news with Shane. It's more to do with Trackhouse Racing in general, and where the state of that team is, and the charter situation. Obviously, they only have 2 charters if they want to go full time. They have 4 drivers on the payroll. But it's looking like Michael McDowell, they just announced this week that he is going to Spire Motorsports, taking over the 71 car from Zane Smith. Zane Smith is not losing his ride despite how terrible he's doing. He's last in points. It is rumored that Zane will end up at a 3rd Trackhouse car, and that Shane will end up at a 4th Trackhouse car. And you're probably wondering how that's happening. There could be a merger with Collick Racing coming down the pipeline. I think either way, Shane's probably going to end up full-time in Cup next year. To be determined on whether I think that's a good move or not. But I think as far as the charter worries in Trackhouse, I think everybody's going to keep their job there. And I think Shane's going to have a shot at it. So, shot at going Cup full-time next year.
I'm also mad we're not getting a Shane Van Gisbergen car store appearance this week.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, I think that's it for the rundown from Down Under. I'm not sure if we'll have one next week. We'll probably preview his doubleheader weekend at Charlotte. But yeah, that's all for this week. Into the accolades. Was this race bitching?
Just tough. It's like, no.
What bit? Okay, so it's not a yes or no question. You got to give me an arbitrary, ridiculous thing to describe the feeling of this race.
Oh, God. Since when did we start doing that? What did I miss?
We've always done this. You've just never.
I always just said yes or no.
Yeah, that's not what. All right, so I will say this was a.
I must have slept through this segment every week.
I mean, you normally don't pay much of attention. I'm gonna say this race was. It's like. Man, I'm struggling to find out a way to describe this race. Normally, I'm pretty on it with this. I don't know, man. It's like, yeah, it's like.
I was flustered because I put him in the spotlight.
I'll put it like this. It's like waking up from a nap with a blowjob. That's what I'm. That's.
Oh my God! When did this happen on the show every week? I don't remember this.
Oh well, that doesn't happen on the show.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna counter that and say, like, this race was like when you're having a really good dream and then your alarm goes off, you have to wake up. It's like the long run would start and the tires would finally start to fall off.
That's fair. That is a
like,
very good comparison.
Really good. And then they pit and it'd be like, oh, there it goes. They're mine.
Yeah.
Or Zane Smith would wreck down the front straightaway.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Yeah.
Sundress and dumbass.
Sundress, we got a lot of them. I think we can each cover a couple.
Yeah, I'll go. Let's see we'll give Seth, since he's not here. We'll get his. Sundress. He picked 3, and I think we probably all have these guys, and we'll kind of piggyback off of him. He said Barry, Haley, or Gilliland. And I think those are all great. Todd Gilliland had top 5 pace, and had a terrible pit stops. Justin Haley, raw dogged it all the way to a top 10. And Josh Berry finished 3rd from 33rd on the grid. All those guys, all in Fords, by the way. Let's point that out too. So, they are just. Todd Gilliland, I'll choose Todd Gilliland because he was a guy who I was relatively unimpressed with in trucks. He was at KBM. He had the famous, Kyle Busch, you could stay in your fucking motorhome. And the reason he was saying that is because Kyle fired him because he wasn't performing in the best trucks in the field. And he gets moved to Cup, and it's like, what are we doing? He had some good runs in trucks in the 38, won a couple of races, but it wasn't anything to make you think he deserved a Cup ride. But ever since he's gotten in Cup, he's outperformed his equipment, much like Michael McDowell has. And I think he's got to be on a lot of teams' radars. There's a lot of silly season stuff happening. He's got to be on some radars from a team, and I don't know that I'm moving if I'm Todd Gilliland, because Michael McDowell probably is their A driver over there at front row. And he's leaving. If they don't put Todd Gilliland in that kind of A driver role at front row, I don't know what the hell they're doing, because they have one right there. Todd can be really good.
So, yeah, shout out Josh Berry. Great run for him. Justin Haley. I have a couple other ones. So I want to give one to Kaz Gralla, because he had a solid day as well. He was top 20. But I was just smiling because I was watching turn 4. And I swear for like 10 laps straight, Kaz knocked the turn 4 wall down.
Yeah, he
and
did.
Just kept on digging. Like,
He
it
did.
just didn't matter. I was like, man, Kaz is getting after it. He's going to knock that sucker down here in a minute.
He did. He hit that wall 5 or 6 times. And
like every time I looked at him, he was hitting the wall, and I was like, hey, he's still going. Still passing cars. I was like, go, Kaz. But my other one, I don't know if you saw this. I'm going to actually give one to Ty Gibbs. He posted like the live action shot of him like getting out of the way as Buescher was running up to Reddick, and he just captioned, I'm a head out.
Yep.
That was like gold.
That was good.
I laughed at it really hard, so sundress to Ty Gibbs for that.
Yeah. Dumbass. Seth said Hendrick for fucking up the 24 car, meaning the paint scheme. If you guys didn't watch our throwback rating video, which you guys should, it was a fun video. Seth was very disappointed in the 24 throwback and how badly they screwed it up. So that's his dumbass. My dumbass is Tyler Reddick. I am still so pissed off at him for the last year at the Southern 500, costing Kevin Harvick the win. And you know what? This doesn't help his situation in my book. So, yeah.
So I have 2.
Okay.
And they're both kind of like out there. But so if anybody is on X, you may have seen the video that Brad Keselowski's wife, Paige, posted this morning of their daughter carrying the American flag from yesterday's win into school.
Yeah.
Dumbass to the couple people in the comments that are like complaining and making it a political thing that Brad's dog is carrying an American flag.
Dude,
like,
she's like 5.
Up.
She's like 5 or 8. Like, are you like?
Like, please go away. She was like not even walking the last time Brad won a race. Like, get a life.
Yeah, dude.
And then my other one is, I guess, kind of a sundress for us calling this. Dumbass to the people that continue to put kids that can't legally drive in late models. If you want to know what I'm talking about, go look at Landon Huffman's social media and YouTube, and you'll see a car get
that kid
fenced by a 13-year-old.
That kid blew his doors off.
Literally. The roof off too.
Yeah, doors off, roof hatch off. I mean, hell. Yeah.
Just PSA to all the parents out there. I'm not one yet, but when I am, I won't be this guy. If your kid can't legally drive a motor vehicle on the road, they probably shouldn't be driving a full-body late model.
If you want to hear our debate on this, watch episode 3 of On Tour. We talk about this.
I knew we talked about it. Didn't know which one.
Yeah. And if it's not episode 3, then just watch all of them and figure it out.
You'll get to it eventually.
Exactly. Picks. It is the All-Star race. I picked Kyle Larson. He tragically crashed. You picked Ricky Stenhouse. He did. I don't know where he ended up.
Doesn't really matter because Seth picked Denny Hamlin and he got fourth. So.
Yeah, and he was kicking himself too, not picking Truex, and Truex really wasn't anywhere. So the All-Star race, a little bit different rules. We don't really have to play by any rules. We can pick whoever we want. Seth said he was picking Bubba Wallace. I'm going to hold on.
Kevin Harvick.
Okay.
Oh,
sorry. I am. Yeah, I'm picking Kevin Harvick for the All-Star race. In just the 5-car in general.
For the pole.
No, I'm picking Kevin Harvick for the pole. He's going to win practice, and the 5-car is going to win the race. And all credit to Kevin Harvick when it does.
Okay. So you're like picking Kevin Larson or Kyle Harvick, basically.
I don't know who those guys are, but I'm picking Kevin Harvick.
Okay. I am gonna pick. Who do I actually think is gonna win Wilkesboro? So we're getting points if we actually win this? No.
No.
Okay. Well then, in that case, Timmy Hill's going to win $1 million.
Is he even in the Open?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean,
They're bringing back the 66 car.
Okay. All right. Timmy Hill. Intimidating himself. Wilkesboro will be fun. It'll be interesting to see what the tire situation is and the new asphalt that's going to be. I'm not sure how I feel. And how optimistic I am going into this, but we'll see what happens. That's why we run the race. If you're listening to this, Chuck will be at the track today. Actually, yeah, he'll be at the track today.
Well, if it's not raining.
And then if you're listening to this on, like I said, on Tuesday, we will be at the track Wednesday. All of us, Seth, Chuck, and I. So if you're at Wilkesboro, please hit us up on Instagram at Big Motor Small Blade or any of our handles. And come say hello. We'll be there all week long. So we'd love to see you guys. Yeah, I think that's all we got.
Watch on tour later this week.
Watch on tour.
Go watch Push to Pass like now before you even watch this because it's already out.
Yeah, exactly.
You should have watched it 10 minutes ago.
If you haven't watched, if you haven't watched Push to Pass and you get to this point of this video, pause it.
What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. Pause it. Go watch Push to Pass and then watch the last 5 seconds of this podcast. And then after that, go fuck yourselves.
Yeah.